Hey everyone, I'm Ben Wolf, the executive editor of Splickety Magazine. Today it's my privilege to interview Jeff Gerke, the founder and former owner of Marcher Lord Press, your source for high-quality Christian speculative fiction. By now you probably know that Jeff sold Marcher Lord Press to Steve Laube, one of the highest profile literary agents in the CBA. I've asked Jeff to show up today for this interview so he can fill us in on a little bit about what's going on, and so he can tell us some of the things that led up to this decision. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks for having me on.
So what do you think, Jeff? Did I more or less get the story straight? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I had been exploring options with Marcher Lord Press for 9 months or so. After you've run something for 5 years, you kind of see, where you are with it and what's working and, what you wish you could do better at. And I'd actually had a couple people approach me over the years to possibly purchase. So that idea was in my mind. And I was not actively looking for somebody to purchase. I was thinking about taking a portion of Marcher Lord Press into a direction that would be different, but it would be a way to enhance some of our goals. And as I was running some of these things by one of my publishing mentors, Steve Laube, he said, "Well, have you ever considered selling?" And like I said, I had in the past, but I wasn't right then. And we just got to talking, and this was it all happened very quickly. And we're doing this interview on the 3rd of January, and that conversation happened like the 7th of December. So even though it all happened quickly, it was something that I'd been thinking about for a while on and off. He'd been thinking about. He's been a supporter of Marcher Lord Press all along. Steve was the torchbearer for Christian speculative fiction for a long time before I was. I remember meeting him for the first time and being so excited and felt like I was meeting a rock star, and kind of wanted to become him. And in a way, I did. I carried the torch for a while, and it's fitting that it should go back to him. And then he was thinking, we're here in December. A lot of publishing kind of goes quiet over the Christmas break, and it might be a good time to, for tax purposes and everything else, let's see if we could get this done by December 31st and January 1st. So, the talks kept proceeding, and it kept looking good. And the more I prayed about it and thought about it and talked to counselors about it, the more I thought this might be really the best thing for all parties.
What would you say was your primary motivation for selling Marcher Lord Press to Steve?
I think the primary motivation is what would be best for Marcher Lord Press.
Yeah.
I produce, I think, a really good product, pick good writers, we have good edits, we have excellent covers, a very good-looking product, but I personally don't know what to do with it once it's there.
Sure.
And so we get these amazing products that, surface and then slip under the surface quietly. And over the years, there's just been this growing, slow panic on my part of, how do I help these writers? I started this publishing company so I could bring the new voice to the marketplace and these great stories. And I'm bringing it, but I'm not presenting it to the marketplace very well. And so, in a way, I felt like I was almost doing some of these authors and stories a disservice because I didn't know what to do. And so here came somebody who, Steve has a minor in marketing in college, and, he's got all his experience in the industry, and he's been a bookseller, so he understands sales and marketing, and plus he's run publishing houses himself, so he knows all aspects of this. So I think this person can elevate our genre and can elevate these authors and can elevate these books and can make them more, make more people aware of them. And of course, there was the downside of, well, I would have to walk away from it. He wasn't wanting to come in and be a silent owner or something. He was wanting to really own the thing and purchase it and run it. And that's what I would do too if I were in his shoes. So, very quickly we agreed that I would just need to step away from it and he would need to be the guy. And, that was kind of hard. He wasn't driving me out at all because it was totally my choice. But I understood why. But that was kind of the part of like, well, can I really do this? People have said, how can you walk away from your baby and walk away from your dream? And, but babies grow up and then they go to college and then they get married and, and dreams are there. But if you can't take the dream to where you want it to go and somebody else can, maybe you hand the dream off.
So with this transition, what are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling relief. I'm feeling relief that my authors are going to be taken care of, that March Your Lord Press is going to continue, that there's this great enthusiasm and plan for it to succeed and take it beyond where I could take it.
Do you still believe in the cause of March Your Lord Press? Do you think you accomplished the mission that you set out to accomplish about 5 years ago?
Oh, well, of course I believe in it. My goodness. I mean, this is always going to be my favorite kind of book, my favorite kind of story. And, this is not any kind of, oh, well, now I'll go try, Western historicals. Or, I'm always going to be a speculative fiction guy. And I have seen, as Steve said in his press release, that, this is an underserved demographic. And so, there are so many people like you and like me and like the people watching this who love this kind of fiction and don't have nearly enough of it.
Right.
We've done a really good job over the years of identifying the pure Christian geek, the Christian science fiction and fantasy lover. And yeah, right. And me and, everybody watching and right. And that's wonderful, but I kept trying to, there's a potential market of those people that is much larger than what we've been able to reach. People who are potential fans of our books don't know that they are. They don't self-identify as Christian fantasy lovers or Christian science fiction lovers. They don't even know the term Christian speculative fiction. And, that if one person said it this way, they don't like the story they have to tell themselves if they pick up a science fiction book. They don't see themselves that way. It would be like coming up to somebody and saying, I'm going to show you a movie that is an alternate history movie with time travel and paranormal influence. Most Christians would be, I don't want to see that. That's scary. But if you were to say, hey, let's go watch It's a Wonderful Life.
Same thing.
Right?
Right.
And so we've done a great job of capturing those, 1% of people who would say, sweet, free on the paranormal and the horror aspects. And the 99% or whatever who would like it, but don't like it in those terms, we miss those people.
Yeah.
The true science fiction Christian geek will find us.
Yeah.
Like they find Decker and Tosca Lee and Rubart. But I did such a good job of identifying my niche that I think that niche isn't big enough.
Sure.
And I think we need to, and I think Steve has a better chance of reaching that larger demographic who would love those books, but don't know it about themselves yet.
So what's the story behind Steve not taking Hinterlands or Amish Vampires in Space?
Steve was clear from the beginning of our discussions that he didn't want Hinterlands and he didn't want Amish Vampires in Space. And the reason for that goes to his strategy and his focus and his vision for how to make March Your Lord Press succeed. He's saying the same thing I just said, that the larger group of people who would enjoy Christian speculative fiction but who don't know that about themselves, he's trying to reach those people. And if you come along and say, hey, we've got this Christian novel with nudity and sex and cussing in it. Don't you love it? That is not going to appeal to the larger Christian demographic.
Right.
For Amish Vampires in Space, there was no R-rated content in that, so that was kind of a different deal. I think he felt that the title, of course, is campy, and if Carrie had written it as a complete parody, then I think it would almost have been easier for Steve to take, because you could say it's just a joke, it's just a parody. But the problem with that, if you will, is that Carrie wrote such a brilliant science fiction novel that argues against the levity of the title, and so in some circles it might come off as an insult or some kind of a jab, or just keep in mind that Steve is going for that wider Christian fiction demographic, and what do they love but Amish? And if you come along and tell them, I'm taking the thing you love and I'm making them all into zombies or whatever, and it's going to be a slap in the face to them. And so it isn't that he doesn't like the books. It isn't that he doesn't think that they ever should have been written or published or anything like that. He's just saying that for the focus he has, for the strategy he has, for the demographic he's going after, those are not appropriate, and they would hurt his chances and the authors and books' chances of doing what he wants them to do if those were tied on as baggage.
Sure, that makes sense. So what's happening to the Marcher Lord slush pile?
My acquisitions team, or a couple of my authors, for now are staying on as the acquisitions team, so that should be seamless. All the tracking that was taking place with them is going to transfer over to just reporting to Steve. They had recommended 15 or 17 manuscripts for me to read, and I had never gotten around to them. And so I have already sent those to Steve, saying these are the ones that are recommended. He was just about to ask me, so where's your slush pile and where's your recommended manuscripts? And I sent them along with the notes from the acquisitions guys, and even made some personal comments on which ones I thought should be read before others.
So if an author has recently submitted, do you think it's okay that they follow up with Steve?
I don't think there's anything wrong with any author who has a proposal or a manuscript with Marcher Lord Press to say, hey, Steve, just wanted to touch base, make sure that you still had my book in the queue, and it's a good time to say, hey, I've done some editing and some updating, can I send you my new version or whatever.
Great. You've shown up at past events and conferences in a Marcher Lord Press costume. Can you speak on the current whereabouts of the tights? Is Steve going to be carrying the mantle from now on and wearing costumes in public?
Steve does not do costumes.
Ah, okay.
He told me. He said, I can't do what you did. And it's like, that's all right. I'll keep doing it. No, I still have the tights. That particular costume, the tights have been retired. I got some black sweats at Goodwill, and that takes the place of... so I've worn that costume 1 or 2 times since then, and tights are gone.
Follow-up question to that. How does this affect your conference schedule for this year?
I've not heard back from everybody, but I have heard back from 6 or 8 of them, and all of them I've heard back from have said, yes, we still want you to come.
Good.
You can make a case that I'm kind of an expert in teaching this stuff, and would be a benefit to conferences anyway.
Do you see your role at these conferences changing?
I suspect, I could be wrong, but I suspect that fewer people will come up to me and want to sit at my table and so forth, because a lot of times they were secretly pitching me something, hoping that I would publish it. And again, I'm no longer a portal to publication, so they might not come up to me. I loved, as Marcher Lord Press publisher, being an encourager, not only in my words, but simply in the existence of the company I had created. And I would stand there and be a manifestation of encouragement that there was a chance for this kind of novel to be published. And, I'm not that manifestation anymore. Somebody else is. So I can still encourage, but, now I'm just, another faculty member. I'm not the guy who can get them published for the story they want.
Right. So when can we expect that cozy suspense novel from you?
That cozy suspense.
Yeah, the cozy suspense mystery romance
Yeah,
historical.
well, I'm not writing that. I'm 45,000 words into my dystopian science fiction, politically incorrect thing, and one thing
Yeah.
I'll have a chance to do, I hope, is write more of my fiction. With this free time, I'm hoping to build my freelance editing and writing and typesetting and cover design and so forth, and teaching stuff. But I still want to write my own stuff.
Some people online have questioned whether or not it's a conflict of interest for an agent to own a publishing house. What are your thoughts on that?
He'll just have to draw lines of distinction between the two. And I mean, it's not like he's just going to make all of his clients Marcher Lord Press authors, even
Right.
if they wanted to be. They have to submit to the acquisitions team, and a lot of them aren't going to make the grade.
Sure.
Marcher Lord Press has set the standard pretty high, as our various Christie Awards and Carroll Awards attest.
Right. So are you staying on with Marcher Lord Press in any capacity, even in an advisory sense?
Yeah, I'm not on in any official capacity. Of course, right now there's all this transition.
Sure.
I'm still figuring taxes and paying royalties for the last quarter where I owned it, and the bank account is still in my name for now because I have to pay that, and I'll file taxes for it, and Steve, I sent him all my files, but he's like, well, where's the file for this? I can't find it. And I mean, there's all this transition that you would expect when you're handing over a major operation to somebody. I'm telling him, which of my authors know about this, and go ask this person about this. And there's a lot of things he's doing to help the transition. A lot of my authors were involved in doing volunteer work to help Marcher Lord Press. One was doing the Facebook stuff, and one was doing the newsletter, and one was
Right.
doing a couple were doing the acquisitions, and he's just keeping them all doing what they're doing. Because he doesn't know what they're doing,
Sure.
and it would just stop if they all stopped, and B, because I think it helps them with the transition.
Do you think he'll contract you to do any editing for him?
I don't know what he's going to do about editing, having me edit, or not, or typeset or whatever. He may need to wait, a quarter or a season or 6 months or something, before he feels like it's his deal and he can go ahead and bring me back in without concern that there's going to be any kind of rift or whatever.
Right.
I'm not the only good editor in the world, and Steve's good by himself, and he's got good connections. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm sure it'll be good.
So what are you going to do now that you're not running Marcher Lord Press?
I'm leaving for 2 weeks to teach a J term at Taylor University.
Cool.
Who knows if there might be some kind of faculty career for me at some point. There is a publishing services company, where an author is independently publishing, but you want to have somebody do a cover for you or somebody do an edit. I've been approached to possibly head up something like that.
Wow.
And that might start this year. I'm very interested in that. I have one more contract for Writer's Digest. I need to finish that out.
Right.
I'm going to be teaching at writers' conferences. I'm, of course, growing my freelance work, and I want to write my own fiction. I think I'm still going to be plenty busy. In fact, I hope that I still have time to do the writing that I'm hoping to do and some of the artwork that I'm wanting to do.
Sure. So this is probably going to be the most tense question of the entire interview. A lot of people who I've talked to kind of feel like they've been abandoned, and you even put in an email to me the other day that it's sort of like dad is leaving. What would you say to all your fans, followers, authors, editors, everyone who was familiar and associated you with Marcher Lord Press?
I'm not abandoning anybody. God willing, I'm not dying. I'm still going to be here. I still answer my emails, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm still very much a supporter of all those individuals you talk about. And if my purpose has been to, or my business purpose has been to encourage the growth of Christian speculative fiction, then in a sense, the best thing for that is for me to step out of the way, at least in Marcher Lord Press, because I've been able to take it this far, and I don't know how to take it anywhere beyond that. And here's somebody who does. And so I don't mind being a relay runner and handing a baton off to somebody else. It doesn't, just because the second guy is running with it doesn't mean the first guy ceases to exist or didn't do anything or abandon the team. I still love all those people and hope they'll still be my friends.
Right. So, with all the fans that you were just addressing, how can they help with this transition to the new Marcher Lord Press? And follow up to that, what should they understand about this transition that maybe they don't already understand?
Well, I think it's a transition from good to better. I hope that they will support Marcher Lord Press. I've heard some people say, well, if they're not going to publish X and Y anymore, then I'm not going to be their fan anymore. And that just sounds crazy to me.
Yeah.
I use the football team analogy. Let's say that your favorite team is purchased by somebody else. And there's a period of transition, of course, but the new guy doesn't hate the team, or he wouldn't have bought it.
Right.
And fans of teams are sometimes, accused of saying, well, this guy's terrible and he's just going to destroy the team or whatever. But his whole purpose for buying the team was to make it better, and because he loves it. And that's certainly the case with Steve and Marcher Lord Press.
Our last question pertains to your involvement with Havoc Magazine, which of course is Splickety's speculative fiction imprint. You're going to be writing a cyberpunk story to go head-to-head with our senior editor Andrew Winch's steampunk story for our Steampunk versus Cyberpunk contest. How do you feel about that? You excited?
Oh yeah. I mean, any chance I get to kind of be forced to write my own fiction. When I'm left up to my own deadlines, I tend to not do it. There's always something else to do. So I'm glad to be pushed at it, and Andrew's a great writer, so this will be fun, and both steampunk and cyberpunk are fun, just full of punks. But so we'll see.
If you'd like to enter that contest, visit splicketymagazine.com and click on the contest tab for more information. Well, I think that just about wraps up our interview with Jeff Gerke, founder and now former owner of Marcher Lord Press. I think I can speak for all of us out there, all of us spec-fic aficionados, when I say thank you so much, Jeff, for trailblazing a path for us toward publication when there otherwise wasn't one, and for bearing the torch as long as you have.
Well, thanks so much, Ben, for letting me be on. And I just do want to encourage everybody watching this that this is a great day to be a Christian speculative fiction novelist. And don't be discouraged. Don't be worried. This is only for the better. And I hope Marcher Lord Press and other related, ventures come along and just blow this thing wide open.
Thanks, Jeff. On behalf of Splickety Magazine and Jeff Gerke, I'm Ben Wolf. Thanks so much for watching. To subscribe to Splickety or any of our other magazines, visit www.splicketymagazine.com and click on the subscribe tab. Thank you.